Bestiariophile, the iron-plated skypulse. The species is a much newer addition to the bestiary I am building, as there are only a handful of their species and it is quite sad how they came into existence. Originally known as the scarlet stark, these dragons were quite common in the woodlands and forests all across North America, named for their beautiful scarlet colouring and because they were originally discovered by a man named Tobias Stark, an adventurer and inventor who was searching for new forms of energy and weapons to fight off some of the more dangerous kingdoms in the territory. After discovering them, he spent a few years living amongst them. They didn't by any means seem bothered by him, and in fact just let him get on with his research, occasionally acting playful and teasing the man. Tobias formed a bond with creatures, which was rare for the time, as most of the species of dragon, drake, or wyvern had become aggressive towards humans after years of excess hunting and culling. In the case of the Scarlet Star, they hadn't actually came into contact with people before, so they had nothing to fear from them. This is what makes what happened next so heartbreaking. People from the Iron Kingdom, led by a man known only as the Monger, were searching for the same thing as Tobias Stark, but had more of a want for weapons than energy. Having recently been attacked by the forces of Rebellion, on finding Stark with the dragons, the Monger decided to entrap them, caging as many of the dragons as they could and taking Tobias as a prisoner. Not wanting the Rebellion forces to find such dangerous creatures within the walls of their own kingdom, they took them to an undisclosed iron cave, where they were to be kept until needed by the Iron Kingdom. Unfortunately, they never returned to the cave, having been wiped off the face of the map by the aforementioned forces. They were left there for decades, and Tobias remained trapped in there with them for the first few generations of the species' evolution. He was forced to watch as the dragons were forced to breathe in unknown gases and elements, and they then later relied on the resources for life. Their blood changed from red to a glowing cyan, and their fiery breath and eyes did the same. Their scales, which had originally been quite small and flexible, became more like the iron that surrounded them. They grew in size and strength, but with lack of food in the cave they resorted to drastic measures, with the elders of the species being used as sustenance for the younger generations. In the modern day, another explorer who simply calls himself Rhodes in passing, and whose family was friends with the Starks, recently found the cave and managed to open the entrance. In doing so, he released the dragons, for which he has managed to create a similar bond to Tobias, and they would never attempt to endanger or hurt him. They now live alongside the fleeting numbers of the Scarlet Stark dragons, having had time to abandon their cannibalistic state, and are replenishing their numbers in their rightful home in the forests and woodlands of their ancestors. All events mentioned were approximately 200 years ago, suggesting the cave may have had some properties that affected the creatures. However, with the rise of a war-waging rebellion, will similar stories be unravelling in the near future? Only time will tell.